Welcome back. Time check is 5 minutes to the top of the hour, 5 minutes to 11, and this is still your groove and style station, Garden City Radio 89.9 FM. My name is my name is Dawn, and this is Dawn on Sundays. Now, for those of you who might just be tuning in for, well, not just the very first time, but tuning in right now, maybe you missed a bit of the show. Let me give you a little backstory. We're talking about church today. And I read out a story that I wrote titled My Sucky Life and All That Jazz, about a young person who decided that they were tired of, suffering, tired of the poverty, and tired of struggling, and so decided they would become a he would become a motivational speaker. But it wasn't as easy as just thinking it, because he couldn't find what he called suckers to reel in. People he could tell, desperate people he could tell, if you can think it, you can achieve it, if you can dream it, power of visualization, an apple a day keeps the doctor at bay, and all that. So he decided, okay, I cannot be a motivational speaker. I'll do something else. I'll become a pastor. And everybody was his target, because while trying to be a motivational speaker, he couldn't find one. But you see, when you're a pastor, everyone's your audience, potential audience. And so he decided to go to a motor park, where we usually find most of these budding pastors. And he tried preaching the word. The first boss, nobody handed him any offerings or felt inclined to do so. The second one, same thing. So he decided, okay, he'll try a third boss. And all he managed to make was 20 naira, 20 bucks. And he realized even that too was a dead end. I mean, when the people of God, in quotes, are too broke to be able to fund a pastor or a pastor's or a budding pastor's lifestyle, then of course it's time to quit. So quit he did, and went home with his 20 naira. I also did tell you the story of a friend of mine who attended one of these prayer meetings where they do Angel Gabriel is coming holy. It's not a church. She didn't go to a church. It was somebody's house, and she was shown this place by a family friend. And eventually, they would tell her she was going to have to take a spiritual bath, and the spiritual bath turned out to be pink oil and loads and loads of Dettol. I'm sorry. That story just cracks me up every time. So, she realized she had been scammed. She left. And then, while we were discussing this thing, she said, you know what funny thing? I even started wondering about that family friend. A number of her family members always found that particular family friend to be a bit dodgy. Like someone who could participate in 419 type of things, fraud. So what if it was a setup just to get her to part with money? And I laughed and said, well, it's possible. You can't put anything past people these days, because people are willing to do just about anything for money. I mean, we kill people for money. And when I say kill people, not just literal going to rob and kill them. Some people are beheaded, parts of their bodies stolen, just because somebody says if you do this and if you do that, would be able to make you rich. And many times, if you look at the person who's telling you he or she can make you rich, the person isn't doing well. And you who's cutting people's heads and taking people's body parts, have you made the Forbes list? Because once you're able to make the Forbes list, then okay, that thing is working. But you're not. You're not a celebrity. You're not featured on E. So what's the point? But I digress. We're talking church. I said a line struck me while thinking this church thing. They have turned my father's house into a den of thieves. Some of you might say, okay, maybe it's what happened in times past. Christ was referring to what he came and saw that time. But if you think about it, it's relatable even now. You have people. Okay, let me tell you this story. Happened again to somebody quite close to me. It was funny, but not funny, haha. It was funny. Are you serious? She loves God, not really a church hopper, but many times when she can't get to her own church, she goes to any church around her area. So this church happens to be in the neighborhood, quite close to her. Actually, all she has to do is come out of her gate and there's the church. So she decided, since she couldn't get to her church that particular Sunday, she would just attend this one. And when she got there, strange things happened. You see, the pastor would pray and people would start, I don't know if I should say manifesting, or people will start having schizophrenic episodes, because it was, based on her description, it was borderline lunacy. She said she watched a young man rip his own clothes to shreds while under the influence of the prayer or under the influence of the pastor, I don't know. Ripped up his clothes to the point where people had to donate clothes for him. People would roll and fall and scatter, and chairs would go flying here and there. Before you know it, they've gotten up, and some of them you would be expecting them to see injuries on their bodies, but well, they seemed fine. And so she felt, okay, the presence of the Lord is here. I mean, look at how God is manifesting. The Spirit of the Lord is so powerful here that He literally lifts you up in the air and slams you down into the ground. Okay. So she became close to the pastor, who would always, counsel her, tell her to always come to church and all the various church services and all that. Okay, well, it's good. We all need spiritual guides in our lives. Till one day, off church hours or off duty hours, I'm sorry if I'm going to sound a bit cynical, forgive me, that's not the intent, but off duty hours, I guess, or church hours, she requested to see the pastor. So she walks into the church, it's empty, save for she and this pastor. His wife is somewhere around in the building, around in the compound. And so she's talking to the pastor about whatever issue she came with. And the pastor says, okay, let's try something. Let's close your eyes and visualize, all this hypnotic, power of suggestion type things. Visualize a cool beach, whatever, but you get the drift anyway. See the sun, the breeze, the winds, the waves, this, that, just to get her to relax. And she said, at first, it was quite relaxing. She visualizing everything he was suggesting. Now, here's where it takes a creepy turn. She suddenly felt his hand on her shoulder. So he was standing behind her. Okay, at this point, I was no longer smiling, listening to her story. And then, while he was still doing the hypnotherapy or whatever it is he was doing, he would bend and kiss her. And that was where she freaked. But she didn't freak in such a way that to draw attention. She just jumped out of her chair in shock. And she was looking at him like, Daddy, they always call him Daddy. Daddy, what are you doing? And Daddy now said, no, he was just trying to relax her and this and that, Next thing, the discussion goes left. He now asks her, what kind of hotels do you like? And that's where she realized that she had not only entered into the lion's den, she had actually put her foot inside the lion's mouth. So she tells him she likes, expensive hotels, the type that you go and pay 50K or 100K and all that, all in a bit to dissuade him. Well, he didn't mind. Congregational funding his lifestyle. So she promised she'll come and see him one day or the other, and that was how she disappeared from that church. Eventually, she would move out from that location because living around that area and having to bump into him was a bit too much for her. So yes, my people have turned, my children have turned my father's house, or the children have turned my father's house into a den of thieves. This time, it's not because people are standing in front of church selling doves and selling, let's see, what else were they selling then? Anything for the church offerings. I don't know what they were selling that Jesus had to upturn the traders' tables and whatnot. Maybe they were selling goats there too, or sheep or lamb, something. Well, it was quite annoying to Christ. And maybe they were even doing some mago there. They will sell you, while you're selling, they will play with the scale. So yes, they've turned my father's house into a den of thieves. But these days we find it's not selling anymore. It's so much more than that now. We have pastors who are only too willing to mislead by trying to interpret the Bible in a way that will suit their intention. Yes, there are pastors like that. You find pastors who are willing to sexually defile or sexually assault, all because they have some sort of authority over their parishioner or the congregant or the congregation. I don't know. You find people who open churches because God has become a job. The tithes and offerings, albeit given to God, fund the lifestyle of the pastor, who's able to live far above the means of his congregation. Isn't it surprising? People who are running to God, some of them trek to come. They don't have cars, their shoes are worn down. Maybe they just manage to use paper clip to hold one end of the shoe to the other. They trek to church and they give this pastor their money, believing that they are in the house of God. This pastor can afford to drive a G-Wagon or a Range Rover or any other car. In fact, a Bentley or a Rolls Royce is not out of their reach. And yet, for the most part, the people who fill the seats in their church cannot afford 3 square meals. How many churches today, this is not a judging thing, it is a wake-up thing. How many churches today even have soup kitchens? A soup kitchen is, you cook, and anybody who's hungry can come and eat. Decent meal, not rubbish. Maybe bread and egg, jollof rice, gari and soup. People can just come and eat because they are hungry. But either you will find, if you try that too, you might even find people who will now want to take God and kindness and goodness for a ride. They will leave the food that's in their house and come there to eat just because, and yet they can afford it. Or you'll find that the people who are actually trying to do the good by cooking will start stealing. They have turned my father's house into a den of thieves. And then some of you will sit, maybe in your churches, or sit down as you have come back from church feeling all holy, and you judge another person for not going to church because you don't know what that person passed through in the hands of pastors and in the hands of the church. In fact, what is a church? Apart from a building, what is a church? You know that church can be anywhere. 2 or 3 are gathered in God's name. He's there. Church. Doesn't necessarily have to be a building. I'm not knocking going to church. In fact, you should go to church. But here's the thing. Pray to God for guidance. Open yourself up to the Holy Spirit that He will direct you to a church that is still real. Yes, we still have churches like that. Now, I will not tell you denomination, because denomination will not save anybody at all. So you could be... I'm sorry, I had to sneeze. So you could be a Catholic, or an Anglican, or Pentecostal, a Methodist, Baptist, whatever. It's not your denomination that will save you. It's your relationship with Christ, your realness with Christ. So yes, there are still real churches out there. It's just to pray to God to lead us to the real church, so that we don't fall prey to these people who have forgotten what it is to serve God truly. I'm not judging. Maybe this is God's way of saying, hey, you who said you have a calling, that I called you, wake up. I wish I could use some expletive words here, but I can't. My mouth is tied and my hands are chained for that word. But I wish I could say, wake the heck up, you. You said I called you. You said I gave you men to lead, to teach. I did. And what are you doing with the so-called calling I gave you? You fed fat to the point where your clothes can't even fit you. You have been feeding off of the offerings given to me to the point where people who are hungry, you no longer see them. How many pastors go to church, go to hospitals, Look for people who cannot afford to pay their bills. How many pastors go to hospitals and look for children in the neonatal center who are literally at the verge of death or at death's door? Those who have holes in the heart, those who have some kind of cancer or whatever, and the parents cannot afford it, and yet they are crying to God, God please, God please. And you have all this money in your bank account, and they call it tithes and offering, and you're using it to build more schools, you're using it to build car parks, to bring more people, you're using it to buy properties, and my children are dying, and you say, I gave you a calling. And then somebody will sit one corner and say, you didn't go to church, you're a bad person. You should be ashamed of yourself. There's no point in judging somebody. You don't know that person's story. But yes, my brother, my sister, you should go to church. When God directs you and says, this is a real church, by their fruits you shall know them. What they do in that church will tell you if they really are of God, and if there really is the Spirit of God in that place and a true calling. Then you go. As often as you can. You see, I don't believe that a person who has lived a good life, lived a life of love, helping their neighbors, being like the good Samaritan and whatnot, will go to hell just because they didn't enter into the church building. God is everywhere. You will be so surprised that for the mere fact that I am calling his name right now, God, 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 even you who's listening through the frequency, through the radio, God, 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 we are in church. But you, pastor, have driven away half of God's people because of the nonsense you do. You're defiling somebody's wife. You're sleeping with the choir, the choristers or whatever. And people have heard. And so they've decided, if this pastor can do this, there's no point going to church any longer. What do you think is going to happen to you? Maybe you're a pastor who has forgotten his way. You've lost your way. You let the trappings of the world lead you astray, or make you start doing things you shouldn't ordinarily do. You can still come back. And by the grace of God, you can bring those whom you have misled back to what the truth is. So yes, my brothers and sisters, please go to church. But ask God for the guidance. Ask God to lead you to the true church. I don't know what the true church is. It could be the Catholic Church. It could be Baptist. It could be whatever. I don't know. Even my own church is not left out in scandals and craziness. We hear of priests, defiling young boys and other silly things that happen. But there are still true churches. Even in the Catholic Church, even in Baptist, Methodist, Anglican, Pentecostal, there are true churches. People who still know that God no dey play. God is real. His will is the way. And so they reverently follow that way and teach those that follow them that way of truth. Now there are some of you who have given up completely, not just on the church but on God, because of what the church did to you. When you needed them most, the people who formed the church turned their backs on you. Maybe you heard vile comments, gossip, different things. Or maybe somebody in the church helped destroy you, or destroy your home, destroy your marriage, or take your job, something. And so you look and say, there's no point, there is no God, there is no Jesus, because there is no church. My brother, the church is not your salvation. My sister, the church is not the reason why you are. God is. God is. Maybe this is just a lesson for you to learn. Added wisdom, which you will use later on in life. I don't know. But one thing I do know is, do not look at the actions of others. Do not look at the actions of the church and turn your back on a God who loves you so intensely that if he were to pour out all his love on you, you would literally explode, but in a good way. A God who's there for you through thick and thin. Don't turn your back on that Don't let that man or woman inside that church be the reason why you lose out on the most beautiful relationship one can ever have with a being so amazing, so wonderful, so loving, so divine. With a being who knows that you're struggling and he's there with you every step of the way, seeing you through, helping you to get through the next day, because just around the corner might just be your breakthrough or what you're waiting for. Run to that God. Ask him for the guidance you need, so that you don't fall prey to those who have turned our Father's house into a den of thieves. And you see, if you are one of such people, pastor, evangelist, I don't know, there are so many names out there now, you can still come back and still help gather rather than scatter. Imagine whose work you are doing right now. Depending on the things you're doing, imagine whose work you are doing. Are you actually doing the work of God, calling yourself a pastor? Or are you doing the work of, I don't know, Satan, darkness? Imagine running to a church for reassurance, for succor, for strength, for courage, when they will tell you that, do you know your Father God? He is an all-consuming fire. To your enemies, he is terrible. To you, he is loving, he is mighty, he is gracious. But you will run to church, and all they will do is fill you with fear. Your mother is the reason why. Your father is the reason why. They drop something in front of your door. It is always fear, 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 fear. And yet, same Bible, which they all profess to read and preach from, says, our Father has not given us a spirit of fear, of timidity. Oh my goodness. What are we doing? So yes, we've turned God into what he's not. And we've turned the place of worship into what it was never meant to be. An office, business. Every day people are having one church program or the other. Every day. You see, let my people go as a theme. You see, finger of God as a theme. You see, sword of blazing thunder as a theme. You see so many things. Every day there's a church program. Every day. End point is your money. See the dedication to which you are so dedicated to collecting people's money. Imagine if you were dedicated to God in that way. Imagine what God will use you and do. Do you know, I was discussing with a priest one time and he told me there are a lot of people who follow God in such a way that God begins to pour himself out on them. They start to manifest the gifts of God. Some have the gift of knowledge, knowing things they ordinarily wouldn't know. Some can heal, some can inspire. So many gifts out there, because this world is a spiritual world. But guess what? Once they realize that they have that calling upon themselves, next thing is to go and open one mushroom church or the other. Of course it will grow. Yeah, what is in the name of God must grow. But as it grows and they start doing outside of what God called them to do, maybe because of pride or whatever, the Spirit of God will just get up and leave you, because light and darkness cannot mix. Now when they realize that, oh, they've lost this thing, they decide they will go somewhere else to try and gain that power they've lost. Because you see, the Holy Spirit will not follow you down that human path that leads us to do things that are against God. I don't have a better way of explaining it. It's like, okay, let's use Moses, for example, where he struck the rock. The thing he said first was, do you think I cannot bring water from this rock for you? And God was like, really? You are the one doing it now? And many times we as human beings fall prey to that sin of pride, in a sense. We start making comments as if we are the ones doing it. Or we start thinking that we are so special or too special, and before you know it, we start to lose track. Spirit of God don't generally work out. And that's where we need to be careful, because once we realize that the Spirit of God is no longer with us, it's best to make a U-turn back to God, where we fell, than to behave like Saul, whom when the Spirit of God left him, he went to a necromancer. I think those that work with the spirit of the dead. to rise up Samuel's spirit. And even Samuel, when his spirit came out, was really angry at what Saul was doing. Many pastors today are in that position where they realize that the Spirit of God is no longer with them. They go elsewhere because flesh, and more flesh. So to you, pastor, today I say, wake up. And to you who no longer goes to church, there's a church out there that's still real for you. All you need to do is reach out to God and ask Him to direct you to that church, and He will. Especially if He wants you to stand as a body with your brothers and sisters in true worship of Him. But if He doesn't, so what? You can worship God in your house. Read your Bible. Who knows where He will take you and how high He will carry you, so long as your intention be true. He sees into the heart. I say again, a person who has lived a life of love, loving their neighbor as their self, trying to be as good as possible or as near perfect, will that person go to hell because the person did not enter a church? Will God be that, I don't know, for want of a better word, mean, when He Himself is love? Therefore, if we are exhibiting true love to our neighbors, He will not say go to hell because you didn't enter a church. I don't know. And this is where you guys come in, because this is not just my platform, it is yours. Sometimes this program takes a philosophical slant, sometimes a spiritual slant, and I'd like to hear your own thoughts, your own view on this matter. Because that thing I heard that person saying today, being so judgmental of people who don't go to church, when you don't know the person's story. Okay, you who went to church, why didn't you bring church to that person? Could have gone to meet the person and say, my brother, see the things we read, or this one, that one, or, tell the person what you read. And how sure are you, Mr. Judging McJudgingtons of the River State judges? How sure are you that that church you're in is actually real? What if you're one of those being misled? It's a slippery slope, I don't know. But yeah, that's today's topic. We're talking church. I feel I have to say this again. Don't turn your back on God just because of church. Just because of something you suffered in a church, or by somebody who's in a church or who professes to know God more than you do. Nobody can know God more than you. You are God's favorite. He deals with us on a one-on-one basis, individually. Therefore, He loves you with a love so fiercely, so intense. It cannot be quantified. It cannot be understood. So don't turn your back on that kind of person who's willing to root for you to the point where He came and died for you. So you go to Him and He'll lead you. If you're confused about anything, go to Him. Ask Him for the direction. He will always answer. Either He will send a person who's actually doing His will to you to tell you the answer you need, or somehow He will answer you. One thing for sure, God's mouth ain't dumb. Says His hand is not short that He cannot reach us, or His or His eyes closed that He cannot see us. It's not possible. And this is where I rest my case. So what do you think? Do you have a better angle? Or do you have another angle or a different perspective? I'd like to hear. Yeah, I know maybe you guys were waiting for reassurance and all that, but this is the reassurance you need right now. If you're not going to church, you need to go to church. But you need to be guided to the church so you don't fall into the hands of wolves in sheep clothing. That's the reassurance for today. Numbers to call: 080-928-95620. That's 080-928-95620. You can also send a text message to 09086681703. That's 09086681703. That's hello. Could you do me a favor? Ah, no. I'm sorry. When you call in, please, please, please turn down the volume on your radio set so we don't have that hall back, because it wreaks havoc on the ear. Please, I beg of you. So one more time, numbers to call: 080-928-95620. Okay. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning.
Good morning. I can hear you. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Kaodi. I'm calling from Port Harcourt.
All right, go ahead.
Listening to you was very, very uplifting.
Thank
The
you.
words from your mouth were quite encouraging. But the fear is the deed. Like you said, we should go to church. But I have discovered I want to set yourself into any of these churches. The people here will hijack your mind. They will start using your mind first with their own idea. That if in proper analysis is quite different from what is the Bible. So the question is, do I sit and listen to them in anger, while keeping God, or do I go home and worship God in truth and in spirit? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for calling. Well, like I said before, I said there are churches that are real, following the will of God as is, as should be. Ask God for that direction, not man or anybody. It's not for somebody to say, I know one church where they happen. Hey, okune for one corner. Ask God for the direction, and I am 150% sure that He will answer and lead you to where you need to be, where He needs you to be, where He wants you to be. That's my answer. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name is Justice, representing Ohalidu community in Oniega.
All right, Justice. What you have to, oh, I lost Justice. Mobile phone gods. Really don't mess with me today. Please, Justice, you can call back 080-928-95620. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is
Anyeti.
Yes, man.
All right. So go ahead. What do you have to tell us?
I wrote the question just said that we ask God, and that is the number one. And that is the best question that of God to anything you want to do. Very important on God by asking God here and what. And that question will come to us if we can really abide on it.
Okay. And yet I heard you, but we lost you somewhere halfway there. Okay. Hello. Good morning. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is
Chidebere. Okay. Calling in from where?
I am calling from Rumuokuta.
Rumuokuta. Okay. What do you have to tell us?
I'm telling you, I so much love your program this morning. In fact, you see how I'm happy here. You know, there is one thing about this our country. Nobody knows why the country is like this. But everybody keep on blaming president, the governance, and so forth. What of churches? What of churches? Their own policy, tiring, honestly. So all the things we are saying, in fact, I wish I could say are tired. Sometimes I prefer to go to church. I come out, I don't know the one. And if this one will claim their money, this one will claim their money. I'll be confused. If I tell you what happened to me, what church I did today, my sister is just there. Not one church, not two church. No matter what, the people finally demand money for me. I don't know why. So as I'm talking to you, I'm supposed to do the church today, but I'm not doing it. So and I and what I normally do every program is praise based Bible based. And I think the thing is working really well. You know, what matters is not the thing. So I'm not following on based on any Nigeria
I'm hearing you.
that is Nigeria is divided or we don't have to work. But we are doing different. And they know and start I don't know where we are heading. See your human what we do that pastor I have never seen we go see next time before you see pastors rising shoes. You see pastors speaking from there to pass me leg. They don't care. But now if they have a shoe, they are not man of God. They don't care for their church members. Whether they don't or not. All they are doing and they are relating of fact they are preaching the Bible. They don't preach Bible from everywhere. They don't follow it like that. There is some things they are following. And but I believe one day God will surely speak to them.
Amen.
Thank
Amen.
you so much. I love your program. Thank you.
Thank you, Chidebere, for calling in. Okay, yeah. I join my face with yours, and hopefully, yeah, things will change. The churches will change. Hello. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Tosh Valentine. I like your program.
Thank you, Tochuku. What do you have to tell us?
Yeah?
I said thank you, Tochuku. What do you have to tell us?
I just want to thank you for the program.
Aha, okay. You're welcome anytime. Okay, that was Tochuku. I didn't quite get where he was calling from, but that's all right. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Justice, representing Ohalelu from Oniega.
All right, Justice. Go ahead. You have the floor.
I saw the meter, yes. In fact, I am overwhelmed, and I never believed that such programs would be put on air. There have been programs, but not that this one is special, but this one has been an open ground for you to put whatever you have as a knowledge inside of it. Now, my specific way of seeing this thing and how this church of the thing has been prayed is that if actually you look at the Bible and you do according to the Bible, automatically you are exerting the habit of Christ. And so the people that want to follow you, they follow you based on your footsteps. Now, what am I saying here? Saying that the Bible lets us to know that they don't allow the level, see that level, let the sweat rise. Have you ever heard that before?
Not really. Hello.
It's in the Bible.
Okay.
They don't allow the sweat of the level to dry.
Okay.
He said anything you know you cannot able to do and you hire a laborer, pay him his wages.
Okay, so that's a laborer deserves his wages. All right. Okay, I see where you're going with this. All right.
I'm coming now. So if I'm not going to church, are you with me? And then you are going to church. I don't believe you use words that are not supposed to have made me feel because I'm not a church goer to me. I think the word you're meant to share to me is the word of love. But by preaching this word, you see, by only the Sunday, now,
hello?
He said, if you can share this word with every Sunday to the person. In fact, I'm overwhelmed. I would say I encourage you to program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justice, for calling in. Okay, at one point in time, he sort of went off. I wasn't hearing anything again, but okay, that was encouraging. He's overwhelmed. Hello.
Good morning to you, my lady.
Oh, the day just wouldn't be right. Welcome, Real Gift. What do you have to tell us?
Thank you very much. Well, already you've gotten a recommendation, so there's no need adding to it. But this topic this morning is one of those topics I classify as hot potato. Too hot to handle and too cold to hold. Bottom line, we just have to find the space in between. I agree with you, almost everything you said. About what is this? He said, by their fruit you shall know them. I know it's in the Bible. But, until by the time you get step into the church, and then you yourself find out that you are not eating that same fruit, what happens then? Because
real gift, you do believe that we all have a discerning mind, right?
Of course.
If it doesn't sit right in your spirit from the very first time, there are a lot of us, when we hear why you talk, we will know that get as this to
It's not all of us.
Really, are people that are you saying some of us are what, gullible?
If that's the case, if indeed not all of us are not gullible, and when you see why you using your words, we understand. How come some people fall prey to these syndicates that don't send text messages to tell you want so amount of money, send a recharge card for them, and then you send? Of course, sometimes it takes a careful observation before you not discern that, because some of these people are very good in what they do, for goodness sake. And don't forget that in today's world, so many of us in Nigerians are looking for miracles and salvation. And that's why these persons, well, let me not use that word on air, but some of these pastors who believe that God called them, even when in fact, if he not even give them a flash, how to talk about calling them, in fact, God doesn't even know some of them their phone numbers. Yet they come out to tell us that they were called by God. And then they now use this opportunity presented as a result of some type of economic situation. Unfortunately, I don't like arguing on the economic line what persons do some of these things, because so many of us are Nigerians who are even doing good things. Economically, we are down the ladder. But this will capitalize on what is happening to the society, in the society today. One, because we've lost our value system. The value system, as I met it while growing up, is no longer there. The talk of honesty is no longer there. Bottom line, what can it bring to the table financially? And that's why they want to tell every Tamland of what to believe that they are being enthroned by their father's second or third wife, sometimes even their siblings, forgetting that while growing up, in almost every group, we have sibling rivalries amongst ourselves. But unfortunately, because I believe they are not even being regulated or monitored by the government, because every church is being registered, not all anyway. There are so many mushroom churches that we have just maybe the man, sometimes not even all his children is members of that church, because some try to go to other churches where they believe in. You understand? But unfortunately, these days I believe thrives because the government is not even looking in that direction. And that's why people are afraid of like the MMM scheme. It's just like Ponzi scheme. That's what I classify most of today's churches. Unfortunately,
but the real gift, let me ask you a question. You know, when you said, I'm all for government regulation when it comes to doctrine, but tithes, how does the government get in on them paying tithes? It's not really their business. You know, most of these pastors are going into this because it's a business. Business is money. The money comes from the tithes. So how does the government get in on that?
But this is that gone beyond just paying tithes. You talk about church funding.
Okay.
You talk about building, raising fund for building a church, for building schools. As far as I'm concerned, when you venture into schools, automatically because it's a business. Some of these churches have companies of their own. Are you telling me that they are not making money out of that transport company? And yet, just like you asked the question, how many churches today can boast to say they have a kitchen? We have so many thousands of us who are hungry in that church, who trek from their houses to the church just because they believe they are going to serve God. Feed on, for goodness sakes. And like you said, so many pastors today they own private jets, for goodness sakes. Where did they get the money from? Is it not from the tithes and the businesses they do behind the curtain? As far as I'm concerned, I think government should regulate these persons. Check on a Sunday like this, you move around some streets, you see some of these they call churches, some of them will just flex banners with a roll off after the day service. You can go there, get them, and others will sit up for goodness sake. I think this is the problem of the government, why the state is thriving, because nobody calls them to order, because they believe that if you touch the anointed and do the prophet whatever, just like Bible says, even when the prophet is not prying on my financial intelligence, of course, I'm not being judgmental, but for me, I think the government should also help the top list by looking at the activities of these persons, and those that cannot measure up, listen to their doctrine. I'm not against tithes and offering, no. But when it comes to the issue of fundraising for whatever that I know are being used for private businesses, then you should put a stop to it, for goodness sake. From the tithe and offering, you can build your church if you want to. There must not be a separate fundraising just because you want to build a church, that at the end of the day, some members will not even afford to enter there when you put the air conditioner. Not talk about the schools, where a majority of the members who contributed to the building of those schools, their children not afford being in those schools. For goodness sake, while I believe, just like the Bible says, the time will come like this, when even the devil will interpret the Bible to suit its purpose, which is what they are doing today. But I think the essence of having a government is to step in where you can put a stop to these things. Physically, you put a stop to it. Spiritually, where you cannot delve into, you leave spiritual matters for God to fight his battle. Unfortunately, while we wait on government, I think we should try as much as possible to shift the shaft from the wind. Like they say, with your eyes, you may come at the strike. Thank you very much.
Thank you for calling the real gift. Oh, that was a spirited one there by the real gift. Okay, I enjoyed that. He was talking about we got onto the subject of gullibility, and I think my people suffer or perish for lack of knowledge. So maybe we should start reading the Bible for ourselves, so that when we see some certain things that don't sit right, we can be able to question them. I don't know. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning. My name is Hannah. I'm calling from Port Harcourt.
Oh, beautiful. Hannah, I love that name. Go ahead.
Okay. You know, even the Bible made us to understand that my people are destroyed because of lack of understanding. Now, an individual, or should I say a Christian, need to look into the scripture, what is needed, or what is written about them. You understand? Now, they observe that most people, they are looking for success, looking for blessing, money, but they fail to understand that inside the scripture, it was written that I have given you the power to make wealth. Now, what am I trying to say? Now, men of ideas rule the world, you know, but the problem about us is that we Christians, we don't read. We don't know what is inside the Bible, and they come and confuse us, and they tell us that look, they use John scripture for us. The Bible is there. We are seeing it, but we don't know what's inside. Some of us don't even open the Bible there and say, let me see what the scripture has for me. It says the entrance of his word bringeth life to the simple. It says his word is new every morning. So it refreshes your soul every morning. No need for you to say, I don't have anything to do today. I should just relax. Why not go through the word of God and see what is written inside for you? Than for you going through any as you call it a prayer house, I don't know, and people tell me none of nonsense. And just want to say, we Christians, we should focus on the salvation, and we should also read the Bible and know what is inside for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah, for calling in. You know, Hannah, well, literally, either I took the words out of Hannah's mouth or Hannah took the words out of my mouth. You know, we're saying the same thing. And I'm tempted to ask, Hannah, Are you an angel? That would be nice, wouldn't it? Anyway, time check is 45 minutes, gone past 11. Okay, I have a text here, but let me read out the phone numbers one more time so you can call in and give your own 2 kobo. 080-928-95620. That's 080-928-95620. Now this one is from, he says his name is Stanley, alright. Good day, presenter. I love the topic. My name is Stanley. I always see myself in the dream, healing people. But my fear is our pastors are busy fighting each other and building big churches instead of raising disciples. Because of that, I stopped going to church, so I pray at home. Well, I don't know, Stanley, I guess we may have already answered your question. Number one, read the Bible, which I think you might be doing since you pray at home. Read the Bible. Ask God for the guidance to show you what church, where He needs you to be. And then follow the promptings of the Spirit if and when they come to the church you are led to. Now, you say you dream about healing people. Well, I don't know what to say about that. It's possible you might someday down the road be able to heal people by the power of God, or maybe God is showing you something He will use you to do. Spiritual things, deep. One thing I do know, whatever it is you are going to be called for or called to do, hand it over to God. Ask God for direction in everything. Father, if you want me to be a healer, show me how you want it to go. Arrange it the way you want it to be. Help me to know that this is you arranging it, and help me to follow the way you are leading me to go in this healing, in this whatever. Maybe it will. I think that would be best, because God and more God, that's the only direction we should have, minus the small coincidence He has given us too. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is Gavin speaking.
Yes, it is.
Yes, I stumbled on this very interesting program. My name is Dan Abia.
Okay, welcome to the program, Dan.
Pardon?
I said welcome to the program, Dan. Okay,
thank you very much. Thank you very much. I heard the last speaker talk about government regulation and all that.
Okay.
And all the funny things going on in the church. Government regulation is not going to do anything.
Okay.
The same irresponsible government is the same government you want to regulate an irresponsible organization. That's not going to work. First of all, we have to ask, why do these pastors exist? They exist because there is a market for them. There is nothing you can do. The people will fight you when you want to regulate them. People are left in ignorance. The educational system broke down years ago. People are largely ignorant. Most people can't even read the Bible for themselves and interpret it correctly. Families have been destroyed. The nuclear family has been destroyed. Nobody's accountable to anybody. So people are left vulnerable for these hirelings and these crooks who parade as pastors. Take advantage of them. So the real core of the problem is the ignorance of the people. There is nothing, there's no regulation. Don't we have laws in Nigeria? We have laws. How many of them are being enforced? How many of them are being enforced? And besides that, if you try to enforce the laws, it's the man with the money who will pay to exclude himself. So at the end of the day, we have to go to the core of the problem, which is the breakdown of the nuclear family, father, mother, children, and also the breakdown of the educational sector. I mean, okay, we're talking about these pastors taking undue advantage of people and all that. Are they taking advantage of everybody? No, they're not taking advantage of the intelligent ones. They're only taking advantage of the ignorant ones. And until we fix these things, even if you regulate the church and you are able to keep them, something else will come in. They're cults taking advantage of people. We have things, we have a lot of things, even on TV, that we shouldn't be watching, and people are watching it, and it's affecting them. And they don't even know it's affecting them because of the ignorance, the level of ignorance. And there is family structure to call people to order and to contain people and to restrain people. The whole society has collapsed. And anybody who doesn't realize that is either lying to himself or completely ignorant. So what we need to do is go back and restore. We should hold our governments accountable in terms of restoring education. We should carry out orientation exercises and let people know about the importance of restoring the family structure. Until the value system that comes from family structure and the accountability that comes from the family structure and the standard and the rationality that comes from education is restored to society, we will keep moving from one problem to the other. Recycling problem. We will never end. This is just the beginning. Very soon, somebody's going to be giving people holy acid to drink. And it's going to happen.
We hope not.
No, it's not a question of we hope not. You see, that's the favorite Nigerian pastime. The favorite Nigerian drug is denial. The Bible says, can we scoop fire to our chest? Can we scoop hot coals to our chest and not be burned? We are scooping hot coals to our chest and we're telling ourselves we will hope not.
Okay.
When things are bad, they can only get worse. When things are good, they can only get better. So let's choose. Let's take responsibility. This is denial. We're not doing the right thing that we expect the right result. How is that possible? You reap what you sow. We're reaping what we sowed and what we continually sow. And destruction is not far ahead. You can talk about the positive confession you want. You reap what you sow. It's just that simple. It's a divine law. And we're fooling around in Nigeria. Fooling around. Everyone's fooling around and pretending and living in denial. We're going down. We're sinking. And I say this to my Christian brothers and they're up in arms. We're in denial. We've destroyed ourselves. Very soon, nobody's going to want to hear anything about God anymore. Because what will be associated with God is corrupt church. And the ignorance that is in there. It's time to tell ourselves the truth. Ignorance is the problem. Ignorance caused by the breakdown of the educational system and the family structure that no longer exists, that used to uphold family values and hold people accountable. Now we spend so much money policing people because all these things are gone. The money we should have spent on education and family orientation, we're spending it on policing people 10 times as much, and we're not even successful. I'm sorry, I'm really passionate about this,
No,
so I just have to call it.
Yeah, that came through. I noticed that.
Myself.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. I enjoyed your contribution.
Thank you, too.
Okay, have a wonderful Sunday.
Thank you.
Wow, that was a rather passionate one by Dan. But you see, you can't blame him, especially when there's this thing the Americans say, I'm woke. Especially when you're woke. So why won't you be passionate when you see things, going south? Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
What's your name? Where are you
Am I in Garden City FM?
Yes, you are.
Yes. God bless you for today's rant, and I'm Thieves, calling from Rumokuta.
Okay.
I don't really have much to add to what other callers have spoken so far, particularly even the last caller. I'm really, really impressed. I don't know how I can get a tip or something of today's message. When you started by saying that you did not have a topic for today, but I think that today's topic is a Bible on its own. I think you have just written a Bible. I agree completely with all you have said. I personally, I have experienced a lot, even in church. And people castigate you if you are not in church. It's like you are the devil incarnate. I totally agree with everything that you have said today, and I'm really, really, really uplifted. I don't know if there's any way I can get a tape of it so that I can play it for those who did not listen to today's program, so that they will be enlightened and have what they call spirit of discernment, to know the place of worship that they should congregate, they should associate themselves with, so that they will not be misled and lose that eventually at the end, thinking that they are serving God, but they are in a very wrong place. There's no good tree that can produce bad fruit, and no good fruit can ever come out from a bad tree. So I don't know if there's any way you can help me have a tape of it, if I can come to your office or something. Let me play it for those who did not listen to today's program. Thank you very much for lifting my spirit today. I really appreciate your program. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, so for those of you who would like a copy of this, we have a YouTube channel running. It's Dawn on Sundays. Just look for Dawn on Sundays, and previous videos are there. Even today's one will be uploaded later. So that's Dawn on Sundays on YouTube. You see all the videos there. For those who don't do YouTube, we're also on Facebook as Dawn on Sundays. There's a Dawn on Sundays page, and then there's a Dawn on Sundays like page. Videos run on both pages as well. So if you can't do Facebook, Dawn on Sundays like page, you can just go to YouTube, Dawn on Sundays, and you see the videos there. You can also follow on Twitter, Dawn on Sundays. Links will be posted as well, so that you don't miss a thing. But if you would also like to share your stories, you can send me an email of your story. My sister, I'm still waiting on your story. You called me, still waiting. You can send an email to dawnonsundays@gmail.com. Now, Dawn is spelled DAWN. On Sundays is all one word. dawnonsundays@gmail.com. And I'll be happy, more than happy, to share your story. We'll learn something from it. Also, you can call. Yes, we can talk about anything. Two heads are better than one and all that jazz. So you can call me on 080-9805-1480. That's 080-9805-1480. Time check now is 3 minutes to the top of the hour, and I really, really, really must go. So, till I come your way, same time, same person, same station, and every here's this one by B.B. Winans, Brian McKnight, and Joe, Coming Back Home. That's what we all have to do, coming back home. Take care, everybody, and have a fantastic Sunday.